Okay, I need to get ahead of this. I know some people are going to go through and they're just going to skim through the video to see the rankings at the very end. Don't do that. Or if you're going to do that, don't go to the comment section sending hate our way. Please hear me out with my explanations for these players. I think that's going to help you a lot more than the actual tier list that you're going to be looking at. But before we get into it, please go down there, drop a like on this video, subscribe to the channel if you play Dynasty Fantasy Football. And if you want to get in some real money fantasy football drafts with me today, I have great news for you. If you want to go have some fun today, right now, I have some great news for you. You can go get in real money fantasy football drafts on Underdog Fantasy. There's nothing better than that. And if you sign up with promo code FLOCK, you get all of our Dynasty rankings. You get our Dynasty rookie rankings. You get our 2022 redraft rankings. And most importantly, you get a 100% deposit match and our 2022 Dynasty rookie draft guide, over 130 pages. You can find the link to join Underdog Fantasy in the description of the video or in the comment section. Use promo code FLOCK and hop in those drafts with us. But I think that's all we have. Let's go right into this. Let's pull this up. Running back 1 in his own tier. I don't know what else there is to say about Jonathan Taylor at this point. Jonathan Taylor this past season, the running back 2 on a points per game basis, only behind Henry. Who knows if Henry would have stayed up there at that number 1 spot through the course of the entire season. This was a running back that averaged 19.5 carries a game. He got up to 3 targets a game. This is what you like to see. Even with a healthy Nyheim Hines in that backfield, you are still having Jonathan Taylor coming close to about 10% of this team's target share overall. So if we can expect that Matt Ryan potentially checks the ball down more often than what you had from Carson Wentz, I don't want to say Jonathan Taylor has room to get better, but if he can get those targets per game up to 3.5, 4.5, which is a possibility, oh dear God, I think very few players have the floor and ceiling combination of Jonathan Taylor. And the man was drafted in 2020, still has his rookie contract. Nothing else to talk about. Let's move down to tier 2. Let's go into Najee Harris. Najee Harris, also an incredible 2021 season. He was a top 10 running back on a points per game basis, and he averaged almost 75% of the carries in this Pittsburgh Steelers backfield. If we go through and if we compare that to other running backs, the only player to get a higher mark this past year, Derrick Henry. Like, that is the workload you were looking at with Najee Harris, but a better receiving running back out of the backfield. 5.5 targets this past season, almost had 100 yards a game. And what you like to see with Najee Harris is this is a massive running back, right? This is a running back playing every single snap. There's room for upside with Najee. There's room for him to continue to improve, even if he keeps the same workload. Hell, he only averaged about 0.58 touchdowns per game last year. That number can go up to 1. That number can go up to 1.1, 1.2 based on his frame. Oh my gosh, if that happens, Najee Harris could be the running back 1 overall in fantasy. And the man was a rookie last season. Now, someone else we're going to have in this tier will be DAndre Swift. Y'all know I've loved me some DAndre Swift for quite a while. I'll say Swift, while he did prove us right last season, in my opinion, probably has a worse situation this upcoming year. Like, I find myself, at least in those underdog best ball drafts, I'm not taking DAndre Swift a ton in redraft. For Dynasty, he has such a high floor because we know that he is an elite level talent. We know he's probably one of the best pass catching running backs in the NFL. But if we look around in Detroit, while yeah, they have a great offensive line, they just added target competition. I loved Swift last year because of his usage in the receiving game, man. He came out, dominated. This is a running back that averaged 6 targets a game. That was 17% of the targets on a per game basis in Detroit went to DAndre Swift. But now we know Amon-Ra St. Brown's good. We can assume TJ Hawkinson's healthy this upcoming season. They signed DJ Chark. They draft Jameson Williams. That target share number probably going to come down for DAndre Swift, but the talent itself speaks that you have to have him at least in tier 3. I'm personally going to put him in tier 2 because of his age. I think he is this generation's Aaron Jones, this generation's Travis Etienne, as we've talked about so many times before. But let's move down to our next running back. Let's go to our running back 4, a tier below. This is going to be Breche Hall. Now, I know, yes, we're ranking him above Javonte. Javonte's going to be right alongside him. I think these running backs are almost interchangeable in terms of their dynasty value if we are hitting the marketplace. Now, if Melvin Gordon did not sign in Denver. Javonte Williams would be a tier above. Javonte Williams would be in his own tier, but Melvin Gordon should have a role this upcoming season. He only signed a 1-year deal. Obviously, we're talking Dynasty. Javonte Williams still extremely young. He's playing in the better offense, but let me remind everyone, while definitely we want running backs a part of high-powered offenses, that way they have touchdown upside, you can still have an RB in a bad offense like Najee Harris in Pittsburgh last season, dominating based off of raw volume and raw volume alone. If we look at the Breche Hall rookie running back prospect profile, I mean, this is someone that looks like Jonathan Taylor. This is someone that has an elite prospect profile coming out of Iowa State. Hell, he has an entire rookie contract to go ahead of him. I'm going to give him the slight edge over Javonte Williams. I think Breche Hall was a better running back prospect than Javonte Williams, but they will be here in tier 3. Moving down to tier 4, this is where we are going to get some of those contending RBs. You have Christian McCaffrey at 6. Now, with Christian McCaffrey, this is a running back that has the most upside that you are ever going to find in fantasy football. It doesn't matter if it's a running back, a receiver, a quarterback. Nobody can do what Christian McCaffrey can do. Now, it's so hard to fade him in Dynasty because of that ceiling, but at the same time, we need to acknowledge, if CMC continues to deal with injuries this upcoming season, let's say Christian McCaffrey goes out there and all of a sudden week 4, he has a hamstring strain and he's out 2 months. His dynasty value immediately plummets. It would be the straw that breaks the camel's back, holding up Christian McCaffrey's dynasty value. He's still incredibly young, drafted in 2017, but he was drafted at 20 years old, so the man's like 25. One of the most polarizing assets in Dynasty. If you can go through and if you can trade him for, say, Nick Chubb plus a future first, I'm probably doing that. I'll be a running back we get to in just 1 second. But it's hard to move him, hard to trade for him right now. You're kind of just stuck with him on your roster. Running back 7 is going to be Austin Ekeler in this same tier. This is a running back that was also drafted in 2017, a part of a high-powered offense. The reason I'm going to have Ekeler ranked ahead of someone like Derrick Henry is A, he's a year younger, and B, with Austin Ekeler, I am more comfortable with these receiving skill sets translating to fantasy success later on in their careers rather than raw athleticism. How Austin Ekeler wins in fantasy football is by being a pass catcher. So I think that runway is a little bit further, obviously attached to the Los Angeles Chargers and Justin Herbert, one of the best overall offenses in the NFL. Ekeler at 7, Joe Mixon at 8. I mean, you get the massive upgrade at the offensive line for the Cincinnati Bengals. This was a running back 1 this past year. No reason to expect that changes anytime soon. Very similar to Christian McCaffrey. While, yes, drafted in 2017, he was drafted at 20 years old, so still surprisingly young. And now let's go down a tier. Let's go to a running back that was drafted in 2020 and has never had a good fantasy season. Has put up about 2 impressive games throughout his entire NFL career, yet I am ranking him inside our top 10 running backs overall. Cam Akers. With Cam Akers, devastating injury before last season. I thought there was no chance in hell he was making it back for the 2021 season. Somehow he did. I'm going to ignore the horrible efficiency he put up in the NFL playoffs and how bad he looked overall because he was, 5 months removed from a torn Achilles, an injury that historically speaking takes about 18 months to recover from. But I like the fact he came back early because him coming back early now shows us, hell, we shouldn't really have any concerns with Cam Akers going forward. Sony Michel goes over to Miami. Really like that for Akers. They do bring in Kyron Williams. Akers, I am hesitant with because while he was a great pass-catching running back at Florida State, very similar to Mixon. While he was used as a receiver in college, he has yet to be used that way in the NFL. But come on, are we sure Darrell Henderson would ever get a target out of the backfield? Cam Akers should be the bell cow running back. Still very young. Let's go over to J.K. Dobbins, running back 10, another running back that was injured last year, a running back that is probably going to be playing in the most run-heavy offense in the entire NFL. Now, yes, he's going to be in a committee. Now, yes, he's not going to get targets out of the backfield, but it should be extremely efficient with an elite offensive line with Lamar Jackson freezing opposing linebackers. So it's a good environment to be playing, and we don't know exactly what Gus Edwards is. It is concerning, though, that they're going out there drafting running backs, and then on top of that, deciding, hell, let's go and sign Mike Davis. Now, our next 2 running backs in this tier, Nick Chubb, Saquon Barkley. So how I would break this down is if you are a rebuilding roster, if you are saying, you know what, Mason, I don't need points in this lineup. We are punting. We're going to go for 2023. Then I probably prefer Akers, J.K. Dobbins in this tier. However, if you're a contender, I'm going to lean with the Nick Chubb, Saquon Barkley side. And I hate this range of the draft. I hate ranking these running backs 9 through 12. Because if I'm going to be completely honest, there's no difference for any of these players for me. Almost no difference at all. Like, let's move down to running back 13 in this same tier. Dalvin Cook, running back 14, Alvin Kamara. Pure contending assets that were drafted in 2017. They're going to be more productive than Nick Chubb, Saquon Barkley this upcoming season. We're unsure if they're going to be more productive than those guys in 2023. It's such a balancing act with just figuring out your own roster. Like, I would say between Dalvin Cook and Alvin Kamara, if we're talking about a contender, I'm going to prefer Dalvin Cook. I think there are less question marks surrounding that Minnesota Vikings offense this upcoming season. I think Kamara's usage probably takes a tick down compared to where it was at last year. And then our last running back in this tier, Travis Etienne, yet again, another running back that suffered a serious injury before this past season. I loved Etienne. We called him the new DAndre Swift, the new Aaron Jones, the new Alvin Kamara. I mean, they're all the same guy. They're the pass-catching running backs that are going to get used in the red zone as well. Love me some Travis Etienne. He'll be in this tier. Really comes down to what your team needs. I'm throwing my hands up. I don't know what to do. If you can go down to the comment section and give me your opinion on these running backs 9 through 15, way too harsh of a tier. If you can break this down for me, I would love to hear it. Now, let's go to our next player, running back 16. First guy off in this tier will be Kenneth Walker. With Kenneth Walker, really good running back prospect. The issue is he's not going to catch balls on third down. I'm not too worried about Rashad Penny, and I feel like I am just the biggest flip-flopper in the world on Penny, in that every single year I talk about how we need to go get him, we need to target him, we need to pick him up for the cheap. Every year he's injured, and then this past season he blows up. Finally, thank you for paying off. And now I'm saying, yeah, he's not going to stay healthy. Like, I am hesitant to really ever project Rashad Penny to play more than 6 games in a season. I think Kenneth Walker will be the starting running back halfway through the year. I think this is an offense that, yes, will be very bad overall, but they probably want to lead the NFL in carries if they're able to, and just try to win with defense and controlling the football. Kenneth Walker has the speed. He has the size. Not going to be used as a receiver. That's why he's not up there with Breche Hall. Now, Derrick Henry will be our next guy at 17. Yes, Derrick Henry's a tier below some of these other contending assets. It does come down to, if I'm trying to figure out how a running back's going to age, like, how does Derrick Henry win? Derrick Henry wins by going out there and averaging 27 carries a game this past season. 27 carries a game. He is an elite level athlete as well. He wins with his workload and his athleticism. Do we think that will go sooner than a role in the receiving game? I personally think so. He's 28 years old, coming off his first injured season this past year. Maybe they try to scale him back just slightly. It's just so difficult with Henry because obviously he is the outlier of all outliers. Now our next running back 18, we're going to go David Montgomery, someone that just got a slight bump. I think with Montgomery, you could be finding this upcoming season a prime Ezekiel Elliott level workload. Now, I agree with you. This Chicago Bears offense will be a train wreck. This Chicago Bears offense looks horrendous. But David Montgomery averaged over 17 carries a game last year. David Montgomery over the past 2 seasons has averaged over 4 targets a game. In 2020, remember, in 2020, the Chicago Bears were horrible. Like, this was a bad team. He was the running back 8 on a per game basis. He had over 100 total yards per game. So the touchdown upside's not going to be there, but he was drafted in 2019, still young. He's a prototypical bell cow running back in a bad offense. I'm fine buying into David Montgomery at 18. Like, if we're talking about those underdog drafts where there's real money on the line, I've been drafting David Montgomery in the 5th round consistently. Of course, that's redraft. That's one quarterback. That's different. But I'm fine taking Montgomery here. Now, our next running back, we are going to be going with Josh Jacobs. Josh Jacobs also in that class. Obviously, these two running backs will forever be compared to each other. And with Josh Jacobs younger than Montgomery, Josh Jacobs is actually only 1 month older than Najee Harris. Now, it's not saying he has the same runway because keep in mind, you have to look at the running back contracts. Josh Jacobs will soon be on his second deal. The difference between Jacobs and David Montgomery for me is I'm looking at Davante Adams coming over to Las Vegas and saying, okay, well, now that you have Darren Waller, Davante Adams back in this offense, that role in the receiving game is definitely going to go down for Josh Jacobs. This past season, he actually averaged over 4 targets a game. But who were they throwing the ball to? They had Hunter Renfrow, Bryan Edwards, Josh Jacobs. Of course, Jacobs is going to be getting 4 targets a game in that environment. Now that it's Davante Adams, Darren Waller, and Hunter Renfrow, I think that actually ticks down to about 3 targets a game like what we saw in 2020. And on top of that, with Davante Adams, he's going to have the role in the red zone. They're probably going to be looking to throw the ball more often when they get inside the 5-yard line, which would hurt Josh Jacobs because historically speaking, the reason you like Jacobs is he led the NFL in carries inside the 5 2 seasons ago. I am unsure if that can happen again. Now, I don't know if he should be in this tier. I don't know if he should be in the next. I'm going to just put a stamp on it. Antonio Gibson, running back 20. We'll keep him in this tier. But this is a running back that's been one of the biggest fallers this offseason based on the moves that we have seen from Washington. I mean, the Washington coaching staff came out and said, oh yeah, Antonio Gibson's usage will vary on a week-to-week basis. That's concerning. But what's more concerning is not what the coach says, but what the coach shows with his actions and what the front office shows with their actions. They went out there, they gave J.D. McKissic a decent contract, and they didn't stop. They drafted a running back inside the top 100. So even though I don't care too much about fumbles, I think fumbles are a small sample occurrence that are hard to predict going forward. Gibson did lead the NFL in fumbles last season. And if there was ever going to be a player that had an issue fumbling the ball, it'd be a former wide receiver that's not used to going up against 300-pound linemen. I'm rooting for our guy. Y'all know I loved him in 2020 rookie drafts when we were getting him in the 3rd round all the time. Like, oh my gosh, that was a dream. He has the elite size-adjusted athleticism. In theory, he has the passing game upside. At least I thought he did because he was a former receiver in Memphis. I just don't know if it's going to work out. And it's so sad to say that. Now, our next running back, a tier by himself, running back 21, is going to be A.J. Dillon. Now, let me know if you think that Antonio Gibson should be down here in this A.J. Dillon tier. But with Dillon, he's going to be a committee running back this upcoming season. Will have touchdown upside because he's playing in one of the most efficient offenses in the NFL. Aaron Jones has never been a running back to go out there and command a very large workload. We've actually seen this workload come down slightly for Aaron Jones as well over the past 3 seasons. I mean, Aaron Jones in 2019 averaged 57% of this team's carries. In 2020, that moved down to 52%. And in 2021, that moved down to 43%. Like, it's just steadily been on the decline. Now, I still like Aaron Jones. We'll get to him in 1 second because of the receiving role, but we can tell that A.J. Dillon will have a large role in this Green Bay Packers offense this upcoming season. And what's most exciting is just the thought, the raw upside that A.J. Dillon would possess if Aaron Jones were to go down. I am not saying he's Derrick Henry. Of course, I could never say any player on this planet is Derrick Henry outside of Derrick Henry. But A.J. Dillon's the only player on this planet that has the size-adjusted athleticism at the running back position comparable to Henry. Now let's go down to our last tier of guys we're going to be talking about. Let's go to the contending pieces that really only one type of roster is going to want. Aaron Jones, running back 22. Yes, we just got done talking about A.J. Dillon. Yes, A.J. Dillon's going to have a large role. But with no Davante Adams in this offense, Aaron Jones will just be flooded with targets this upcoming season. If you look at the games that Aaron Jones has played without Davante Adams over the past 3 years, from a points per game standpoint, Aaron Jones with no Davante Adams is the running back 1 in fantasy last year. The role in the receiving game is ridiculous. Keep in mind, Adams is a massive red zone weapon as well. So with no Davante Adams, Aaron Jones getting a bump up in the red zone. I think Aaron Jones is probably the best trade target out of these contending pieces because he may not be as expensive as these other guys. Now, Elijah Mitchell will be a running back 23. Yes, we're including him on the contending running back list. My issue with Elijah Mitchell is he's not going to have receiving upside. Trey Lance may vulture touchdowns at the goal line, and they just took Tyrion Davis-Price inside the top 100 draft picks. more team investment than Elijah Mitchell. Of course, I'm projecting Elijah Mitchell to be the starting running back here. I don't have Tyrion Davis-Price ranked over him, but I do think he is a real concern for the Elijah Mitchell workload, especially with how they used Deebo Samuel last year, maybe indicating that they're not comfortable getting Elijah Mitchell 25 touches a game. Now, our running back 24 is going to be Ezekiel Elliott. Elliott has been on a steady decline over the past 3 seasons. I mean, it's been Zeke starting up here, Tony Pollard here, and they're going to meet each other in the middle. Like, they are going to meet each other in the middle. And yes, Ezekiel Elliott dealt with a serious knee injury last season. He played through it. It's the NFL. Everybody does. Now, maybe you use it as a tiebreaker, but please don't just wash out last season and act like it didn't happen. If there was a running back that was possibly going to start declining, would it be someone that has had an unbelievable workload through college and his NFL career? Ezekiel Elliott was drafted in 2016. This is about the time for Zeke to be stepping back. So I know a lot of people want to blame it on the injury. I'm hesitant to do so. Leonard Fournette will be running back 25. Fournette, elite receiving running back, someone that's has the contract for the next 2 years. They bring in Rachaad White. That is slightly concerning. Like, if Rachaad White wasn't here, I probably would have Leonard Fournette at running back 23 because Rachaad White should have a small role as a receiver. But Fournette, great target for a contending team that needs production over the next 2 seasons. James Conner, pretty much the exact same thing. James Conner, a running back that has touchdown upside in Arizona. Perfect target for someone that's needing to compete over the next 2 seasons, but not expecting too much after that. And I think that's all I got for y'all. Again, thank you so much for being a part of the flock, supporting the channel. If you have not done so already, subscribe if you play Dynasty. And if you want to get in a draft with us today, go sign up for Underdog Fantasy. When you sign up for Underdog Fantasy, use promo code FLOCK. You'll get all these cool things. And most importantly, you will have some fun. You will get in drafts with us every single day until the season starts. That's all I got for you. I hope you have a great day and hope we get to see you with the video tomorrow.